Okay, there we are. That's oh, that's not the right one. There we go. Welcome everybody. We're live here. Let me say hello to everybody. Hopefully you're joining in. We're live here on Facebook and YouTube. So please join us there, one place or the other. If you're on YouTube, please go ahead and hit the thumbs up button or like button, whatever it is. And same thing on Facebook. That would help me out a lot. Also, if you want to subscribe to the YouTube channel, please do that, and then you can get reminders or set the reminder button to tune in next week at 2:30 at the same time, same place basically. So same thing on Facebook. Please set reminders and be able to join me here as you will. So let's see. Today, let's first talk about what we're doing here. Just to kind of talk about through all things wood turning. Let me get my. As you can see by the banner there. We're going to talk about all things wood turning, whether it's tools, equipment, processes, techniques, and wood and materials. So 2:30 on Fridays. Why 2:30? Well, I used to be called 2:30 Todd and a long time ago. At work, our Fridays would end at 2:30, and we'd be going out for a few beers at the end of the day, end of the week. So I got known as 2:30 Todd. So I thought I'd start the tradition up again and join at 2:30 every Friday. So I'm going to do this for the next number of weeks. I think I've got it stretched out till mid-September or something like that. So thanks for tuning in. And we're going to talk a little bit about today, just answer a few questions that we didn't get to in the last stream. And then we'll pop into a new topic here today, talking a little bit about bowl gouges and flute shapes and that kind of stuff. So we'll do. I'll take my wife's advice and turn my phone over. Try not to get disturbed. So there we go. Let's see. Who do we? So that's kind of the agenda. Don't know if I'll get to any turning today. We'll see. Let me get my face up here. So we'll do an overhead with a full overlay here. You'll see I've got some stuff on the background here. Well, let me do this. That's a little distracting. So let me put that up for now. We got a few people joining in. James Carter, thanks again for coming in. I appreciate it. How you doing? It's good to have you here. And I saw the Instagram post. Your tool holder looks good. You're getting back into shape, so that's good news. Hopefully that's going well for you. Steve, always good to see you. Thanks very much. I appreciate your support. Steve is my co-host for many of my personal remote demos. So Steve's a good supporter, good friend. Thank you very much. And let's see, Michael McEwen. Good afternoon, Todd and Shelley. Good afternoon, and off YouTube. So my wife probably can't see this, and I'm thinking, Michael, are you the fella from Vancouver or Victoria, BC? I think that name rings a bell. And then let me know in the chat below. Tony, good to have you here again. And what did James say here? Where are the drinks then? Okay, yeah. So good idea, right? So I don't have anything in the shop. I've got a Diet Coke that's dead. I can grab another one from the fridge over there. But feel free, sit back, relax, have a beer. It's not on me, but maybe when we get together in person again. So good call. Let's see. Too bad you weren't known as 5:30 Todd. I'm usually still at work now. Okay. That would be me. I thought so, Michael. Thank you. So it was a funny story. SWAT, just to quickly introduce Michael a little bit to some of the folks. We were at SWAT, I think last year, maybe the year before. I can't remember, honestly. Shelley might chime in on the chat. We were near the end of Sunday, I think, and we were selling Cindy's little microlight, this little thing here. This little thing that turns on and gets, it's not plugged in, so I can't show you. But anyway, we only had a couple left, and we had a couple orders back home to fill. But Michael came up. He was from out of town, out of country, and so we sold him one so he could carry it back and not worry about shipping charges and taxes and all that kind of crap. So that's how we remembered Michael. He was on Cindy's demo the other night, and I think that's how we recognized him. So hopefully the light's still working for you, Michael. That's good. Let's see, Joseph King. Evening, everybody. Evening, Joseph. Good to have you here. That's on YouTube. So the little icon in the corner of the picture says either an F or a blue F for the Facebook post or YouTube. So that's how I'm telling the difference. I'm streaming to both at the same time, so that's why we're getting a mix. Some of you won't see these comments. Some of you, if you're on YouTube, you won't see the Facebook comments. If you're on Facebook, you won't see the YouTube. That's why I put them up here so everybody can kind of see them. So let's see. Victoria, warm and sunny here. Good. Yeah, we're a little warmer and maybe just as sunny. So good to have you here. And Eddie Elliott. Hi, Todd. Thought I would say hello from Scotland. Eddie. Well, thank you very much for chiming in from over the pond. Appreciate it. I have been joining in some of the Woodturning Zoom Club UK. Great bunch of guys over there. So I'm getting to know a few folks overseas that way. That's one of the other great things about this sort of venue or Zoom, that you get to know people across the country, across the globe. So it's nice. So let me talk a little bit about last week. We did a little bit of stuff, but there was a couple of questions in the chat that I had missed. So I want to go through those. One was from George. He asked, what are your newest tools and why? So that's a good question. And as a tool store owner, the Woodturning tool store, there's the banner. So, doing that, I do carry and starting to carry tools more and more every time I kind of see a tool I like or want to carry or know a bit about, then I assess and we see if we can add it to the catalog. So what I've got here today are a few things that are newly added. I don't want to spend too much of a commercial here, but I just want to explain why. I've added woodpecker tools. So we've got, this isn't the whole complement. There's full-size tools. These are all carbide insert tools. So there's a full size, a medium size, and then there's a smaller size, a pen size that I carry. And each of those three sizes have three different tools: the square, the round, and the diamond point. Carbide, I think, is obviously it's been around for a number of years. A lot of people use them. I haven't used them a whole lot, to be truthful. I've got one carbide tool in my cabinet that I wanted to raffle. I grew up learning traditional tools. I guess. I grew up my woodturning life in woodturning, turning traditional tools, using traditional gouges and stuff. So, but I've been doing this piston box a lot lately from a demo perspective. I don't have one here, but you've probably seen it on my website or on Instagram or Facebook or something. But I keep telling people that it's a project you can do with carbide. And it would be a perfect project for a tool like this. So this is a square, medium-sized tool. Even the pen size would probably work as well. These things are packaged really terrifically. This is a hard plastic, and it's got a little stopper in there to hold the tool so it doesn't rattle around. But a great sized tool. This is a very stout shaft, and it's square in cross-section, but they've milled a few flats on it for what they call the shearing cut. So roll it over on the 45 and you can shear with it. So I've been meaning to do one of my piston boxes using this tool. So I think this would be a great little exercise for myself because I keep telling people they could do it with a carbide tool. So that's what I think I'll do. But Woodpecker to me has been a proven brand. I have had woodpecker tools, turning tools, not turning tools, but woodworking tools. I have one of their squares. I've got another one of their little pocket gizmos, the one-time tools. And I think I've sold it since, but the router lift I had was a woodpecker. They have good woodworking tools and made right here in the States. And was it Strongsville? Is that Ohio? Yes, Ohio. So So those are new to the catalog. There's, like I said, the full size, the medium size, and the pen size of the square, round, and diamond. Then we've got this parting tool, and I've sold out the second order I brought into these things, and I'm going to be keeping one for myself. It's just a thin curved parting tool, and let me zoom in a little bit here. Let me put it on my hand. You can see. I'll try and get the light just right. It's hard to see there, but anyway, there's a little carbide cutter. There it is. You can see it's fluted on the tip, and that carbide cutter sits in that little holder right there, and so it's replaceable. The thing I like about it that I haven't tried yet, or I haven't used this a whole lot, is that this cutter is a little wider than the shaft, so that you automatically create clearance. So anyway, I've got another batch of these, just came in a couple hours ago, FedEx, so we've got more of these in stock. I've already sold 2 of them, 3 of them actually, one to me, myself, so I've got a couple left. And then we've got a couple of center finders. Oops, I'm off. So this is the full size center finder. There's a smaller pen size as well, so those are in stock. So Woodpecker, I know, is a quality brand, so that's why I went with their carbides. There's other carbide tool manufacturers out there, but I chose these guys because I think they're a quality product. So, and quality people, quality company. The other things I got over here are some of the Carter and Son tools. They're not necessarily new, but what I do have new is some of the Mahoney branded versions of the tools. The wood beater, the bottom feeder, and where's the other? The shear shaper. I didn't bring out the cleaner and the finalizer, but because I wanted to talk about these tools and the flute sizes in particular. So the Mahoney gouges are new, as well as, of course, I think you saw one of my live streams with Mike himself teaching me how to use the thread chaser. So that's some of the stuff that we carry. I'm going to clear this off. If you have any questions about this stuff, please let me know. Bear with me as I move things off the table. Let me just catch up. Let's see. Victoria. Okay. Okay, what does James say? The Woodpecker pen mill is the best on the market. Okay, thanks, James. You know, I really should call you and talk to you about that, because it's one thing in their catalog of the turning tools I haven't yet added. To be honest, I don't carry a lot of pen stuff. I've got the pen size tools now, so I think adding the pen mill and then the mandrel, and I'll have to ask if you use their mandrel as well. Yeah, those are good quality tools. The actual pen mill to clean the end of the blanks and to mill out the glue from the tube. They use the same carbide insert, I think from the pen size turning tools, the square one, on that mill. So it's the same sort of carbide, replaceable carbide on the mill. One of the reasons I haven't added it yet is the pen mill itself is about 13 different part numbers, and then the mandrel is only one, and there's a few spare parts. So there's a bunch of things I got to consider about adding that many part numbers. So I'd like to get your input on that. I may call you, James. Let me see, Steve. Did you try the thread chaser again and get it working? No, I actually haven't had the chance, Steve. It's been in the cupboard or the drawer since. But I do have some dried hollow forms over there that I think I will try and put a threaded lid on. So it's another project I got to get to. So thanks for asking, though. So let me put that out. The other thing I have on the table here, haven't really shown, is all the DMT products. So we have these in stock. We had these for a while. Take a look. I use this thing all the time. It's got a flat for sharpening scrapers or honing scrapers or skews, and then the cone for doing the inside of my gouge flutes. We'll talk about gouge flutes here now. let's talk a little bit more about that, and leave that over there. So let's see. So yeah, hopefully, Steve, I get to thread chasing again here. Just finding time is the toughest part. So please do. I have one I can tell you all about. Okay, great. Thanks, James. I'll do that. I'll follow up with you. And Steve says I have the pen mill too. It is the best. Okay, that's good to know. I know I've done a lot of pens years ago, and that was the hardest part. Was really kind of my pen mill will get dull, and it's not an easy thing to sharpen. This I think will solve that issue. Set of full is the best buy. Yeah, I think there's 13 pieces in the full set of the pen mill, which includes the mill itself, and then I think 8 or 10 different size reamers for the tubes. So, hey, Tom Hale's back on. Hey, thanks, Tom, for joining. Appreciate it. From Ohio, so not Michigan. I'll get that straight now. We were just talking about woodpecker, and they're up in Ohio as well. So, oops, click that off. So let's see. So that was kind of one of the questions George had last week was, what are your newest tools and why? So that's from the store perspective. From my personal turning perspective, the thread chaser is new to me. I've got what's my newest turning tool? Huh. You know, it's hard to say because I spent a lot on camera equipment and mounts and little connectors and cables and things like that to make this happen. So I'm trying to really think. I guess the last thing in this latest thing, it's not really a tool, but it's something that I've needed for a while. New safety glasses. So these are nice and clear, and I think maybe I just leave those on. Looks, those look pretty good, right? So these are from a company called, what are these called again? These are it's right on here. No Cry. It's a company out of the Eastern Europe somewhere, but I kind of like them so far. Comfortable, and those arms are adjustable, so you can fit it to the however big your head is. And they fit over my glasses. That's the important part. I can't think of any other tools I have. So here's a good thing. I was using that chuck last week. We're talking about chucks. My chuck key handle broke. I've been gluing this thing back on for 3 years now, and I finally gave up, and I bought a replacement. So this is when you buy a handle system, one of these modular handle systems, we give you one of these free. It's Klein Tools, 5/30 seconds wrench for the Allen screws. I really like this form factor, so I bought a big one in metric at 10 millimeters, and that's just to replace this chuck key. So I don't know. That's a couple of things I've bought lately, tool wise. For turning tools, I can't remember honestly. I think it's I think the last turning tool I bought was this one, and if I can find it quickly, yeah. It's a Thomason 1/2-inch spindle gouge, or sorry, 5/8 spindle gouge, and I bought this after my class with Michael Hosluck. So I think Steve Thomason, you were there. I don't know if you picked one of those up, but it was I think that was a year and a bit ago now. So. Oh, we got Rick. I think Rick joined. So good. Rick, just in time. Thanks for joining. Got an email from Rick earlier today asking about bowl gouge flutes and stuff. So that's exactly what we're going to be talking about here in a second here, Rick. So let's take a look at, first of all, let me, I've come a little bit, well, not really prepared, but I've got a whiteboard, and I'm going to try and angle it so I don't get too much glare. So just so you know, I've got this table thing, and this clamp is clamping it onto my bedway, so it holds it nice and steady. So I use this I did the pyrography video using this table. So So we're going to talk about flutes shapes and what they really mean. Just before I go on, let's see. Oh yeah, the one other question, I guess I was doing those little cone centers for the drawbar, and George had asked, "Why don't you use Delrin?" And Delrin is a type of plastic, and I had a chunk in here somewhere that I was turning. I did buy some Delrin. It's somewhere else, but it's a hard plastic, and I did try turning cones with it. Wasn't very successful, and I think the reason why is I didn't have any carbide tools. I think that Delrin plastic will probably work a lot better with a negative rake scraper or maybe a carbide tool. So I'll have to try that again. I got a big stick of it over there. So, but it is not easy to turn. Anyway, so I think that clears up all the questions from last week. Let me just scroll my page here. And bowl gouge flute shapes. So generally, there are three shapes bowl gouges. Oops, wrong way. Let me zoom in a little bit and move over. So we are going to talk about the V shape, the U shape, and the parabolic shape. So I'll try and attempt my art here and try and draw these as best I can. So the V shape has straight sides, but comes down to a small U and goes back up. So that's kind of a V shape flat. And this is looking at the gouge down the barrel. So let me down the flute. Let me pull off one of these tubes. So that's looking down, right down the end of the flute. What is that shape? So it's kind of hard to see in this light, and that's why I'm kind of drawing it this way. So, in fact, let me turn that. I won't turn. Let me turn this one on. See if this is going to help. I don't think I have enough room to be able to do that. Anyway, that might help a little bit there. We get a little bit more contrast. Get my finger out of the way. So that's the shape we're looking at right there. So that's the V shape. The U shape is going to have more straight up and down sides and go like that. And then the parabolic shape is a ever changing curve down the wall, down to the bottom, and then back up the other side with ever changing curves. So those are the three, and that light is blasting right on there. So those are the three shapes of flutes. And if I let me just move those titles for a second, because I'll draw the kind of what they look like. So that's kind of your parabolic gouge, your U-shaped gouge, and your V-shaped gouge. Now this is not without a bevel. Oops, that was really bad. This is just the if I had a blunt piece of steel with this milled in, this is kind of what it would look like. So there is a great graphic I just saw on Doug Thomason did a sharpening video years ago, probably 5-6 years ago, and he shows a picture of three gouges. These kind of three gouges. Well, yeah, I think that have are ground blunt. I'll show that picture in a second. But what what this picture is showing is the three different shapes of flutes, and then the kind of grind you put on it determines a little bit more about the side wing profile. But what is good for V shape, U shape, and parabolic shape? So I'd say the V shape and parabolic shape are mostly the most common ones for traditional or bowl gouges that use the wing, swept back wing. And then you can also use these for a blunt angled bottom feeder type tool as well. The U-shaped gouge is good. A lot of people, and you can use this with swept back wings as well. But I haven't used this one a whole lot myself, so I've got a lot of Thompson tools I use, and I've got some Carter and Son tools I use, which have the V shape, and then the Thompson, sorry, the Carter and Son Mahoney line does a lot of parabolic flute. So I think it's really preference, and this is my preference. So this is where Rick was asking, what's the difference between all the gouges, and then also how does a parabolic V or U-shaped gouge influence the grinds, and which shapes are best for different profiles? So I would say this one is really good for the round, sort of the U shape is good for making a almost an outside of the bowl gouge for fine tuning a shoe. It almost acts like a skew in a way. And I've got one here that I've ground that I use that way. Where'd it go? Well, this one is it's a spindle gouge, but it's a U-shaped spindle gouge. That flute is completely U-shaped. But I've ground it back at 40 degrees. It's actually kind of a 40 degree grind. But what it does for you, and I'll zoom in a little bit more and show this up close, is it gives you this sort of sloped angle, and I slope it back a little bit, and I use that down the side wall of a bowl. I'd show it this way, and it gives a sort of a shearing cut off this edge. And so this is almost like a roughing gouge in a way, but it is a half profile. See, it's milled down, so it is kind of a spindle gouge looking thing. So this one I'll use to on end grain bowls and side grain bowls to trim the outside shape of a bowl, and just take off a little bit and leave a very fine edge. With so let's take a look at wing design now. So if we look at the side profile of a gouge, I'm not on the screen here. There we go. Okay, so we got a gouge, and I'll just draw the whole thing kind of blunt. So if that was the end, we're going to grind on it. So we're going to put on a grind, and this is where we determine our angle at the nose. This can be for me anywhere from 50 to 65 degrees, depending on the use. And then I like a rounded wing, so a slightly rounded wing here. And so this is obviously going to be a swept back grind. We'll come down to the middle of the flute. That's the bottom of the bowl gouge. And so that's kind of what we're looking at when we look at a traditional bowl gouge. Here's a Sorby gouge. It's one of my first gouges I've had. And you can see, I have to do it this way because my handle's too long. But you can see it looks like that. That's kind of what we're looking at. And I should, I guess my drawing is wrong. That should really come around to there. The bottom of the gouge, coming to the tip. So bottom of the gouge is there. I really made a mess of that, didn't I? But that's all right. I think you get the idea. So that's the grind I put on most all of my gouges. You know, I can pull a lot of them over here, and they're going to be the same way. big 5/8 gouge, same sort of thing, nicely curved wing, about 50. These actually turned out to be about 50 degrees when I measured them, maybe 55. There's a 1/2 inch gouge, same idea. That's a spindle gouge. I'll talk about that one later. There's another 1/2 inch Carter and Son gouge, same idea. I like that radius wing, or slightly convex. And that one as well is a small 3/8 gouge. So when you, and here's, let me show this image now. So here's basically what Doug has done in this image, and I'll show up here. So he's taken the gouge and he's ground the bevel on, and then he's just rounded this over to without cutting the wings on just this round stock. And what he's showing there is that this flat is the part that's ground away, the bright silver part. But what he's showing is on the left side of the screen, I think it's your left, is the V shape. But when you grind it with a slight radius on it like this, or convexity, then you get a parabolic arc in the flute shape. So what that does is a V shape. When you put this concave on it, it turns parabolic. If we had that line, I guess this one, sorry. This one drawn ground flat, perfectly flat across there, then you would see that V shape. You'd see those wings and the V-shaped gouge be straight instead of slightly curved, which is very interesting. So what that tells me is that if you have a V-shaped gouge and you round over put concavity on your wings like I do, then you'll have a parabolic flute or a parabolic shape because you're grinding at an angle. But if you grind straight across like this, then you'll have V-shape sort of profile looking down on it. From a functionality point of view, I don't think it changes a whole lot, but it does. Chip ejection is one of the characteristics. A lot of people think that chip ejection out of the V-shape gouge clogs up a lot. Chips come down off the edge and they get stuck down in here. You get a bunch of gunk, and that's off camera. I see. I'm drawing down here. So as chips come off the edge, they kind of get thrown up the other side and thrown out. U-shapes have more clearance. Parabolics are kind of nice and even shape all the way instead of being straight and then hitting a bottom. So it all depends on preference. And parabolics can change. There's some really wide parabolics, and we'll show that in one of the Mike Mahoney tools. So interesting about how you shape the top, how it may influence what you look at in terms of a gouge. If you look at the top of this one, I don't know if I can do it or if it'll show up. I'm painting the top edge to kind of make that show up a little bit. It's not really showing up. So that's not going to work. Let me yeah, it's really hard to see the image. But if you look straight down on it, like Doug shows in this image, down the flute, then you'll see that sort of, this is a V-shaped gouge. No, that's not, that's a U-shape. My bad. This one is a V-shaped gouge. I should have cleaned these up before, but when you look down on this profile, top edge of the profile, you'll see that picture in the left there. So in that sort of profile, even though it's a V-shaped or straight-sided wings, it looks like parabolic when you look down on it, because it's got that convexity on the profile. The other thing I was just thinking about, I just lost my thought there. We'll carry on. So, yeah, I know there was a point there I was going to make, but if you guys have any questions about that, let me know. No, something about the parabolic shape. Draw that back on there, like that. If we take a look at, we'll take that off. I'm going to pull this away for a second. Oh, yeah, I know what I was going to talk about. Yeah, that was it. So, got my thought back. So, bear with me a second. So, with the parabolic shape, when you grind the wings back, like on this one, you will see a lot more wing roll over the top. You'll see a lot more, if you look straight down on it, you'll see a lot more ground edge here on a parabolic. And that's simply because that wing is rolling all the way up, always changing curve up the sidewall instead of a straight V. So when we look at, for example, I think this Mahoney wood beater, which is a 3/4 inch gouge, we're going to look at it, and you can see a lot of silver from a top view down the sides here. So let me just shine sideways a little bit on that. So you can see all this ground area. When you look down on it, those wings kind of almost fold in because of that parabolic curve coming up. And this is I don't know, where do I get that again? I'll figure out the way. You can kind of see that parabolic curve there. Just hold it like that. Versus, and I'll hold them up, see if I can hold them up at the same time. Let me get the same size gouge out. It'd be easier to compare. I'll pull this away now for a second. So if we take a look at these two guys, let me point that down there so we get a good contrast. We got two different flute shapes. We got a V shape here on the right and a parabolic on the left. So you can see the difference. It's hard to see a little bit with the one on the left because it's ground back so far. But that flute shape is different. So from a side profile, we have a very swept back wing and a not so swept back wing. So, but the flute shape, if we were to look at this way, and let me go. It's V shape. And this is V shape. I'm going to put this one here, even though this one's a different size. I don't know if you can tell, but you can't see quite as much of the side wing here on these ones as you can on this one. So these side wings are quite more prominent. And Mike Mahoney does a great job explaining why he prefers those, these parabolic flutes, and why he prefers this grind to kind of come over the side. So I would encourage you to, watch one of Mike's demos and ask him questions about his flute design or his grinding preferences. So this one is his shear shaper. Does a lot of shear scraping, shear cutting with it, and that's why there's a convexity to the wing. instead of straight across, so that you have an always available. And I got to get that light over on the other side, pointing back this way. An always available edge hitting that wood, so you can shear scrape all the way along that edge. If you have a very flat profile grind, and I don't really have one, well, so I'm going to use a spindle gouge, which gives you a very flat edge. You can still shear scrape, but you're shear scraping on a much larger surface, a much larger edge at one time, which is not always not desirable, and it's sometimes desirable, sometimes not. So, but that's why I always put a convexity on my flute shape. I was watching Lyle Jameson. He has quite a few YouTubes, and he's talking about his gouge that he carries, which is a Thomason gouge, and he grinds it flat. So he makes, his this shape where he grinds it flat. Has a wing that's flat across here. He prefers that. I'm not. That would work fine as well for some things. I'm not sure. I have never used a flute that way or grind that way, so I try and avoid that. And the one thing you certainly want to avoid is anything that goes like this. If you have that sort of flute shape, then you're in trouble, because you're not going to be able to really control that tool very well. The other thing, just while we're talking about it, the other things you want to avoid in sharpening are bird's beaks. So if you had this thing coming up, you got your nice curve on there. But if you have, and I'll blow this up actually. Let me go over this way just a little bit, redraw it. If you have that sort of thing happening, then that's called a bird's beak. You need to grind this back and then take that concavity out. So that's a lot of grinding on the nose to get rid of that. So we're trying to avoid that. And it really happens when you start, concentrating too much on here and stuff, and then you don't concentrate up there, and you end up with that shape. So beware of those things. The other one is the reverse of that, where you grind too much on the nose, and you get this this sort of thing where it kind of changes drastically at the nose, and then so that means you got to grind back all the wings. Oops, wrong arc. If you have that, or I meant to do this, then you got to grind back your wing all the way to there. Get all that out of there. So anyway, a little bit on grinding and shape of the wing and what it determines. I do 55 degrees typically. I think my grinder platform's coming out. I'm about 52 now on my grinds, so I need to go maybe a little bit more blunter on these. But I do most all my gouges the same way. That's one of mine. That's one of mine. And then that's one of mine. Oh, and then this guy. That's one of mine. So all my personal tools are pretty much all the same. All my bowl gouges, whether they're V. This Sorby is a parabolic flute. These are all parabolic flutes. This one, I think, is the only U flute I have. Yep, but I grind them all the same. I don't really notice a lot of difference in using them myself. There's probably some subtleties that, my muscle memory is just easy enough that I can just, pick up one of my gouges, whether it's V shape, U shape, parabolic shape, as long as it's got the same consistent grind of swept back wings and 55-degree bevel, I'm good to go. So I don't really notice a difference. I should pay more attention because I think the parabolic one, which is this Sorby, will probably affect, where's my camera, affect the way I roll over and shear cut. So I do a lot of shear cutting. Shear scraping is like that. Shear cutting is like that. So you can come down and create shavings that way on your bowl using the side bevel. If we get time, we'll do a little bit of that. I just want to finish up with, let's see, Carter and Son U-shaped bowl gouge, which shows the three profiles that they have in their arsenal. So there's U-shape, there's V-shape. So these are 5/8 bowl gouges. So they carry the U-shape and the V-shape in 5/8 bowl gouges, and I think that's the only one that do the 5/8. The U-shape is in the 5/8 gouge. I think the 1/2 inch and 3/8 are all V-shaped gouges. So that gives you the choice, and that's for doing. They usually sharpen these like as a bottom feeder, so they're good for bottom feeders, the U-shaped ones. And then the Parabolic is the Mahoney line of tools, has a parabolic flute. So that's really struggling to. Let me hold them way down here. We can get those. There we go. There's the three shapes: parabolic, V, and U shape from right to left. Okay, so that's got some discussion on flute shape with. Let me bear with me a second. I'm losing things here. I'm stuck on something. My mic cord stuck on a tool handle. What was I saying? So, oh yeah, so the Carter and Son tools, that's what I can show you. That's what I carry. The Thomason gouges that I have, or the Sorby gouge, that's what I can show you. In terms of other tools, Rick had mentioned Ellsworth, Mickelson, Jameson, Trent, Bosch, John Jordan. So I know John Jordan uses Thomason tools. I think they're the standard V-shaped gouges. Johannes Mickelson uses Thomason gouges, but apparently a special flute design. I don't know much more than that. It's a parabolic. I think it's a deeper parabolic. So this would mean something like instead of that sort of parabolic shape. What do I do with my tissue? There it is. Take some of that away. So we got that kind of parabolic shape, but you could widen that out. Make a wider parabolic or narrow it down. So if it's out of the same size steel, I should make that one just a bit bigger then. What it may mean is, let's see. We'll say that's parabolic, but the same size. What it may mean is you get a little bit less steel in this area versus that one versus that one. Right? So depending how deep the flute goes into the steel bar, might mean a little less steel at the bottom of the flute. So did I say that? Depending how deep the parabolic curve goes or the milling machine goes, might mean how much steel you have at the bottom. And that might affect how far over the tool rest you can go. I've noticed with the one gouge I have, it's thinner at that bottom interface than some of the others, and it tends to whistle a bit more when it's hanging over, so it'll complain a bit more, meaning that it'll vibrate and stuff, and stuff. So this is just limitations of the tools. You know how to use them. You pick them up. You go, okay, this is this one, and let's use it that way. So let's see. Okay, how do you sharpen to get either a flat or a convex curve? Okay, thanks, Rick. So it's really sharpening is going to be a whole other live stream, but we will certainly talk about it briefly. I use the one-way system, the Wolverine jig. I use Doug Thompson's setting on this. So if you go to Thompson page, he has a template to show you exactly where to set this. I haven't changed that in years. I use a little block to set the depth, and that's about 2 inches. And then I use the length of this block to set the distance back on my V-arm. So it's, oops, wrong way. It's changed a little bit. This block, I think, needs to be just slightly longer, or maybe I've used this too much, and my thing is sticking out too far. But anyway, I've got to readjust, and but whether it's 50 degrees for me or 55, it doesn't really affect me a whole lot. I just change the attitude of the tool to make the bevel go whichever way I want. So I have started to learn. So when I put that in the V-arm, that distance away, when you're doing the wings, you just kind of rock it a bit on each wing, and then you blend the nose. And that's it. And I just sit there and look at it and get a nice side profile view and say, okay, do I have that nice rounded wing? Right. So that's what I'm looking for. I look on both sides. You can see, and I've actually got one. I've got one tool, a very early. I'm not going to say who the maker is, where I think the milling of the flute is slightly off center, because when I sharpen it, and I've been checking whether my jig has been screwed up and whether this is level or not, this clamping nut, because I get one wing that's slightly higher than the other always, no matter what. So I think the milling on that one is just slightly off, which is kind of strange, but also could be an advantage, because when you're going down the inside of the bowl, you're cutting mostly on this lower wing here. When you're cutting and shear scraping on the outside, you're using this wing here. So use either wing for different purposes. So and there's actually a gouge I want to show you where I kind of do that asymmetrical thing. So this is a master cut gouge. It's one of the one-way ones. That's why I have it in a Hoslick handle. It's 13 millimeters, and that's the measurement of the outside of the tool. But the other end, I've got a bottom feeder gouge. And what I've done, and what I typically do, is I'll do this on the grinder platform and just kind of roll it around like that. But when I get to this side, I'll turn it a bit, and that brings this wing back. So when I'm going in the bottom of a bowl, that wing is out of the way. So it's swept back a little bit. Keeps it, if it's straight up and down, there's a tendency maybe to catch that wing. So if I sweep it back, and then so that's one way. And then Ray Key's spindle gouge is another one where you got really an asymmetrical grind on a gouge. So there's some times where you might want to have some asymmetry to your gouge grinding, but that's a whole other story. So let's see. Do we want to do any turn? What time are we at now? We're 3:24. We're almost an hour. So let me stick a little chunk of wood on the lathe. Take this off. I think that's my small. See if it'll fit. I don't know if it'll fit in this chuck or not. We'll see. I turned this little piece a long time ago, stuck it on the shelf because I didn't really like it. Looks like a piece of, what do you call that, boat arc? Yeah, it's going to fit. So, and let me widen out. Let's shift over. Whew, let's put that in the right way. Get that. I'll get my fancy new eye goggles out. And at least we'll see a few chips flying today anyway. So let's see. We've got the Sorby gouge, ½ inch, and I can't read that anymore. It's almost getting too short to fit in the one-way grinding jig. I'm going to have to flatten this rod off up here. Let's see. Lyle Jameson gouges are Thompson tools. Trent Bosch apparently I think is making his own. There's no information on this. It's M2 steel, but there's no information on the profile or gouges that I can see. Have to ask him. But mostly everybody's got Thompson gouges, Carter and Son, or D-Way. At least in the States for state manufacturers. And Robust. Robust is making tools. And actually, Brent English is making a gouge that's flat all the way along the shaft, which is kind of nice for grinding. I don't know much about the steel, so I haven't used those. So that's something to look at. So speed down, power on. We've got a little ugly defect in this thing. And bring that forward a little bit. Speed on. Don't need to go terribly fast. This gouge feels a little dull. So let me change that out. The same size gouge, but a Thompson steel. So if we look at the flute position, that's the direction I'm going to cut. So whether that's 50 degrees, 55, 60 degrees, it's really not a bother to me. I just always aim that flute in the direction I want to go. I've got a little gouge that'll do that. And let me show you this. I've been learning the 40-40 grind. And I was actually in the, oops. It's in the one-way tool, the Hoslick handle. So the 40-40 grind has got a 40-degree bevel here, and then the wings are slope back at 40 degrees. And then I've taken the heel away quite a bit. And I started grinding this. I started learning this a couple of years ago, but it was never really good at grinding them. And always frustrated with how to do it. And it just takes practice and a little bit of steel. And now I've got this is all done freehand on the platform. But now I've got a pretty polished edge along that whole bevel. So I think I'm getting better at it. Just takes practice. But this one doesn't take a steep, the handle doesn't have to be as far over to go in. So that's one advantage, having a different angle of bevel is tool position when you're comfortable with it. I think I haven't taken any classes with Stuart, but he's a big advocate of the 40-40. And it's something that I'm getting used to and playing with more and more. So there's always room to learn and figure out new things, and figure out what kind of grind works for you. Let's see. What is Steve? I have a robust gouge. Very nice. Okay, good. Good to know, Steve. I'll have to come back over there and visit sometime when we can and have a look at them. Have a robust as well. James like his. Okay, so, and James says the 40-40 grind can only work on a V grind or parabolic, not good on a U grind. Well, I hate the word only in there, James. That's something that's I try not to say too often because you never know what's going to work. But I can see your point in that a U shape may not be the best for a typical bowl gouge. That's why I use this, this big U-shaped one. Let me take my head off here. Let me take that comment down for a second. Is when I'm on the outside of a bowl, and I realize this bowl is probably not the best example of what I'm meaning to do, but I will use this one as a skew type of gouge to go down the outside. And I wonder if I have out a handle. Here's another gouge. It's 40-40 ground. So there's the bevel. But let me take that. Oh, that's a 3/4. Bear with me one quick second, and we'll see if we can actually show you what I do with this tool. There we go. So I will use it to kind of skew down the sides. Oh, there goes my Allen key. Get my glasses out again. Bevel. Oops, cut the edge there. God damn it. Oh, yeah. And clean that off first. That is out of balance a little bit. But I'll use it to go down the sides and clean up. And I'm just hitting that. Just not very good there. I should have prepped this wood before. But to use it like a bit of a skew going down the sides there. So that's what I use it for. Why I tore that wood up a little bit. I think that knot, this has been sitting for 4 years without touching it. Man, that knot's getting me in the way. It's popping out, I think. Anyway, that's a U-shaped bowl gouge. Not swept back that much, but a little bit. But yeah, so I would agree that those kind of tools maybe are U-shaped gouges are better for using it in a skew-like fashion, if you will. They give you a straighter edge and stuff. From Batty, he says not to do it. Okay, so that's James's comment. Yeah, well, there's yeah. So let me put this up again. So everybody, not everybody, a lot of people have their thoughts on how to turn, and I say listen to their opinions and then drive your own. So that's what I kind of look for. I'm not here to advocate one way or the other. I show you how I do it. Stuart's showing you how he does it. So Don Geiger is working on a jig to sharpen 4040 on a Wolverine. Ron Brown has his own jig. Yeah, jig would certainly help people to get there, but it really doesn't take long to practice. Cindy Drozda has a good couple of videos on sharpening, so I would suggest you watch those. But yeah, so that's where we're at. And I had to tear up a piece of wood again. I got to get rid of this piece. I'm not really happy with this piece of wood, so I think I'll throw it out. So, but there you go. That's our hour mark. So I'm going to leave it there, and that's going to be it for this week's live stream. If you got any other comments, and I'll read them afterwards and put them in the show notes. I put a few notes just on the live stream on my webpage. So if I just see this for a second, I can do this. Bear with me. And oops, I want to pick that one. So I'm sharing that. I gotta find my mouse again. So if we look at the, I just want to show you quickly here. If you go to, and I gotta, bear with me a second. I buried my web page behind me. So if we go to Explore Woodturning and down to, oops, not lessons, live stream. This is where the live stream is now. This is the previous live stream, and I put a few little show topics that we talked about down here, and then we will, do the same for this one. So you can always go back and take a look at what it is and kind of see the topics. I do that on my webpage. I don't do that on my on the YouTube. I just figure I got to do it once. That's all I'm going to do. So I'm going to find myself here. Oops. There we go. So thanks everybody for joining. I appreciate it, and enjoyable, informative stream. Thank you, Michael. Appreciate it. Thanks, Rick, for joining in. And like I said, if anybody has questions, you can drop them in the chat or drop me an email. But please, if you could and would, like the YouTube, subscribe to the YouTube, hit the notification bell. You'll get notified for next week's YouTube stream. And then on Facebook, if you can like and share, that'd be great. I appreciate it. And we'll tune in next week and hope to see y'all here. So thanks again. We'll talk to you soon. Bye from Allen, Texas. Oh, I didn't do this. This is what I was going to do. Yeah. So cops are here. They're about to take me away. Just kidding. It's just one of my lights I bought a while ago. So take care, folks. Bye for now.